Hey guys, Jesse here, and today I'll be taking a look at the 1:144 scale high-grade Gundam Gusion from the series Iron-Blooded Orphans, and I'll be comparing it to the Rebake, because we never really got to see them side by side in the series because this turned into the Rebake, and we never really got to see that process either, and it's just sort of interesting, I think, to take a look at the sort of designs that carried over from the Gusion to the Rebake. It's unfortunate that we only got to see this particular suit, for only, I think, 2 episodes before it got turned into the Rebake, because I really, really love this design for a mobile suit and for a Gundam. I thought it was very interesting that they decided to call this an official Gundam, like a hero suit, even though it was piloted by a bad guy for a while, and then, and kind of spoilers, they captured it. I thought they were going to use it in this form alongside the Barbados, but they turned it into the Rebake, and I thought it would have been a cool concept to keep this sort of toad or turtle-like Gundam fighting alongside a very skeletal, skinny Gundam design. But whatever, I guess the writers didn't think so, so this was a very short-lived suit, and that's unfortunate because I think it's really well designed. I love my bulky suits, the Zaku being my favorite mobile suit, but I could see how some people wouldn't like this design. The bulbous nature of the thing could be very unappealing to some people, but as far as I can tell, the general consensus is majority of viewers like it. So that's sort of my sort of supplementary on the design. In terms of the model kit, this guy is great. It's very hefty, and it looks very substantial for the price you pay. It looks like there's more to it than there actually is. So the good things about this are obviously the looks. It's very nicely proportioned, even though I think it's supposed to be a lot more chunkier and rounder in some areas. But I prefer this look better than the one seen in the anime and in the manual. So let's just start off with the bad things, just to get them out of the way, because there's not that much. Just because of its bulky sort of design and nature, the articulation is a little limited, especially in the arms here. You're only going to get them about that high. You can go a little bit further. I think, that's about the height of you'll ever get that hand. So that's unfortunate, but it can't really be helped because of this armor. This is a separate moving piece, and then there's a piece under here. So, and then that just fell apart. I don't think I have that pushed in all the way, but in any case, that's not a fault of the model. It's probably just me not pushing it all the way. Actually, I'm going to take that apart to show you something. So, interestingly, I decided to paint them because every time I see fake pistons or whatever, I just have the urge to paint them, but you'll never see these. But this sort of shows sort of a glimmer, a hint that this is a Gundam frame. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. And then these don't serve any purpose, and this is just a big ball joint. Any case, elbows are also kind of limited to about there. Some really cool piston detail in there that I went ahead and painted. Some mechanical like bars and piping. And then these wrists here, the hand movement's good, but this armor will kind of get in the way when posing with the guns. When I get to with the accessories. When I get to the accessories, I'll point that out later. The head actually has some pretty good movement, but it's it runs into this big collar piece. But for what it is, it's pretty damn good. The front skirts can be separated. I decided not to, just because the legs, even with this out of the way, can only go about that far. So you're not really going to be messing with the front skirts. And then this is a double jointed knee, but it's very oddly double jointed. It's very far, like the joint's up there and then the other one's down there. So you're not going to be doing too crazy things. Also, it's on a ball joint in there for each hip, and it's sort of strange how it's on there. It's a little tight on there, but it's not. It's a very shallow ball joint, so you're only going to get about that far out. So he's not going to pull off too many crazy wide poses, but honestly, he just doesn't look good doing any wide poses. I think he looks good kind of standing there looking very large and menacing. The feet are also a bit hindered by the nature of the legs, but it's not that big a deal. So that's sort of the bad, and honestly that's the only bad thing I can really find about this mobile suit. You know, aside from a sort of subjective view, if you don't like the design, mechanically and model wise, that's it. I guess one more thing to comment on are the seam lines. You're gonna have a seam, there's 4 seam lines in total that are a bit of a problem. The top of the shoulder here, which is normal for HGs, and the back of the, and you can see I kind of messed up on that one, the back of the legs, there's one running down here. This is an armor piece that slaps on the front, so you don't have to worry about that one. Now, these are, you know, they're very kind of few and far between, because it kind of just runs up here, stops at this armor piece, then finishes off there. And then this kind of same deal runs down here, runs into the thruster, and finishes off there. And they're in very unnoticeable spots, so they're not that big of a problem. But if you did want to clean them up, it is a little difficult just because they're over a lot of raised edges. And this one also comes down in a very, it raises up on this, and then it raises up here. So, you know, sanding those down and getting glue or putty or whatever on those will take a little more skill than the simpler seam lines. Other than that, again, so I guess the articulation, those few seam lines are a problem. Other than that, literally no complaints with this guy. He's, even for his bulbous nature, his articulation's a lot better than what it probably would have been if this was produced even like 5 or you know 3 years ago or something. So talking about more about the good, there's very few stickers here. The only stickers I have here are on the eyes. The rest of these I painted, but the stickers they do give you are very, very good. I mean, it's just the 2 pieces on the shoulder and then that fork, which is a nice touch. So you have these 2 stickers, and those are kind of a flat surface. It wraps down into the front, but it's not that big a deal. And then you have the fork here. I decided to I took out the fork, and then I decided to cut out the sticker there, and use it as a stencil for that, and then use the modeler's knife to sort of sculpt out the parts that are supposed to be green. Oh, actually, there are 4 more stickers that it's just, they're so they were applied in such a like easy spot that I forgot they were stickers. These lavender squares here and underneath on the chest are stickers, but they're in indented sections, and they're very easy to apply, and they're triangles. I mean, triangles, rectangles. So those are absolutely forgivable, and I don't know, mixing that lavender to paint, well, it's not hard, but I mean, you have to mix paint, you know, just for those little spots. Perfectionists would do it, but I'm not that much of a perfectionist. Any case, another really good thing about this is just look at all the lining on this guy. A lot of great detail, especially in the back here. Just enough lining to give it a good amount of detail and interesting things to look at without going overboard like an old wing kit or something. So I like that a lot. It's, you know, this is almost master grade levels of panel lining in the good sense. I did repaint these thrusters a sort of chromy silver, as well as the exhaust here, and I did repaint these Vulcans as well as the ones on his head like a gunmetal gray, and that was just me because I wanted to give it a little more color. The colors you do get are the green, the main green you see on the body, these dark green, and then this lavender. So I think it's a really good color scheme. I think it's very interesting. Again, it's a shame that they sort of turned it into the Rebake. I love the Rebake. I love the design, but I like this a lot better, to be honest. So going on to the accessories real quick. You have a left open style hand. Only a left hand. Really wish there was a right hand, but as I understand, this is the only open hand for the Iron Blood Orphans line we get. And, you know, it's in this interesting color, and the armor is all different, so only can be used with the Gusion. You get the machine gun. I repainted this gunmetal. It comes lavender. Really, really cool machine gun. I actually love the design of this. It's so simple, but it looks proper. Fits in the hand just fine and can be stored. And I love when you can store weapons on the suit itself. It can be stored in this little flap, and it just clips on there. Really nice. Looks good. I like where that goes. And then you get arguably the most memorable thing about this guy besides this design, the Gusion hammer. Repainted this a silver, metallic silver, because it was also lavender. I would suggest repainting this just because it's kind of boring and it's weird lavender color. This has a pretty nasty seam line going all around here. It's this pole, a part of this sort of guard, and then half of the hammer, then the other half plugs on, and then you have the ending connector piece. So I would suggest fixing up that seam line. It's very easy, it's flat, so. And he can hold this thing pretty good. There's some spots where it starts to get, where the weight of it starts to really mess him up. But honestly, I'm surprised he holds it at all. It's a little loose. But the fact that it doesn't topple him over immediately is a really good sign. And it doesn't hinder him too much. He can definitely get it over. You can see it's kind of going there because it's made the wrist a little weak. But he can hold it up, even though it is fairly heavy, and it's probably a little heavier with the paint I have on it. So there's that. So the problem I was talking about, we'll just leave his hammer in there. The problem I was talking about with his arm guards here is that, as you can see, he can really only hold weapons if the whole of the hand is pointed this way. If he tries to hold it this way where he has a better arm bend, it's going to run into this guard. Obviously for the hammer, and this, the length of this handle is just far enough to bump into that where he can't get his finger on the trigger. So I think a good mod would be to shorten this handle, then you can get it all the way in there. So it is a bit of a problem because posing like that is awkward, and you kind of want to be able to point the gun this way rather than all the way out, but you can't because of this handguard. So that's unfortunate, but again, it's a pretty simple mod. The hammer, you're just going to have to make do and pose with it this way. So another accessory you get with the hammer is this little connector piece. Let me just get the hammer out of his hand. You get this little adapter, and that goes onto the back. And again, I love when all the weapons can store onto a Gundam or onto a mobile suit. Just plug that in, and I'm glad that they allow you to plug the armor piece back on there, and then that holds that. Nice and secure. It looks a little silly, but it can articulate any way you want. Yeah, there you go. Now that looks good. So now I'd like to do a quick comparison to the Rebake just to see what similarities were carried over in the design. So first off, of course, the Rebake is a lot slimmer and a lot taller, and just looking at them side by side, there's no way you can tell that this turned into this. Yeah, they don't really share almost no similarities from the front here, maybe except for some white accents have carried over. But when you turn it around, as well as the Gusion here, you can tell that what's carried over here is this back. Now, how they turn this back into something flat and smaller, that's just plot. But in any case, there you go. That's the butt shield, and that's the back of the old Gusion. That's what sort of happened to it. And then here, you can also tell that they took the legs from the Gusion and turned it into these thruster pods. So that's very interesting. Not something I would have expected. It looks a little funny on the Rebake. Some people like it. Some people just think it's hideous. I quite like it. Then they fit arms in here. So yeah. Other than that, I mean, you can tell that almost nothing is is shared between these two, except for those two main features, at least that I can find, and save for the name. So yeah, there's a little short comparison between the two. Yeah. So in the end, obviously this is a very positive review. It's a great HG. It's a great representation of the Gusion, and I'm really glad to have a model of it. When I first saw the design, I fell in love with it, and after building the model, I love it even more, and am more disappointed that they turned it into a Rebake. Really wanted to see this guy in action, especially with the Gusion hammer, because this was just an awesome weapon. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all next time.